Hello and welcome to another Sprues and Brews unboxing. Today we're looking at the Death Korps of Krieg army set for Warhammer 40,000. So first of all, I want to say massive thanks to Games Workshop for sending us the Death Korps set over to review. In this video we'll be having a look at the contents of the box, seeing how all the kits go together, having a look at the new codex in there for the Astra Militarum, seeing what stuff's been added, check out all the new rules, and then in the second half of the video we'll be taking a look at the Death Korps range, built and painted, and I've got some of the older resin kits as well for some comparisons of size and style. So yeah, I guess we'll start with the fact, if you don't know, the Death Korps of Krieg was a Forge World Astra Militarum regiment. They were all in resin and they were really cool. I had quite a big army myself of the old resin stuff. Being resin made the barriers to entry a little bit high. They were quite expensive. It was about £45 for a squad of 10 guys, and they weren't available in standard Games Workshop stores. You had to pick them up from Warhammer World or order them online, which made it a little bit more difficult to get into them. Now they've continued to be a very popular regiment. And you'll have noticed, if you keep an eye on the Forge World stuff on the Warhammer website, that a lot of the stuff has been phased out recently. And it seems the reason for that is that they're going plastic. Now there are resin kits that are discontinued that are in this book. I do hope that as we get more codexes in the future, we do see some of those older kits come back maybe. Acadians have had the limelight recently for the Astra Militarum. And obviously got some Catachan Rangers as well. This is a big old kind of release wave because we get a lot of brand new Death Korps kits, some of which are inside this box. Now, if you've seen these army sets before, they act as a bit of a precursor to the full release. So it bundles together a few of the new kits plus the new codex, and then in a couple of months' time, presumably, we'll get the rest of the range and the individual releases. So if we turn this over, it is a big old chunky box. £145 this retails at, but you get an awful lot of stuff in here. So we get 10 Death Riders. They're brand new plastic ones. They have got different options for like carbines or the lances. From a rules mechanic, they've got all those weapons anyway, so it doesn't matter which way you build them. That's just for aesthetics, really. You get the new commander, Lord Marshal Dreer, on his genetically modified horse. You get a new artillery team, which is really cool. I need like 3 of them in my army. And you get a squad of 5 combat engineers as well. Engineers and the Death Riders did used to have resin kits, and again at the end of the episode I'll show how these stack up to those old resin kits. Are they bigger? Do they keep the same style? I mean, immediately from the off you'll see that the horses have got weird kind of like mutant feet, so they'll look a little bit different. And I think my old ones are based on round bases, where these are on oval bases, but that's a minor thing really. But we'll see if they can kind of stand up alongside them, those old Death Riders. The big one for me is the artillery team. Death Korps of Krieg is, World War I style trench warfare, masses of troops kind of going over the top while the enemy gets pounded with artillery. So yeah, really looking forward to seeing this. Now there was a couple of resin kits, one a big siege mortar, one an earthshaker cannon on a weapons platform. This, I guess, is the spiritual successor of that, with its own kind of profile. There's 3 different loadouts, if I remember rightly off the top of my head. Again, from a rules point of view, we'll have a look at everything that comes in the codex in the second half of the video. But yeah, really good start. Now, if you've not got any Death Korps, the way the Astra Militarum Codex works is that you don't need to pick a regiment as such anymore. You can have Krieg mixed with Catachans, mixed with Acadians. I'm quite lucky, I've got an existing resin Death Korps kit, and Games Workshop did kindly send a couple of the new plastic Krieg kill team boxes as well, just to pad out my squad. So I should be able to, after this, have about 3,000 points worth of Death Korps, and hopefully the same day as this video goes out we'll have a battle report pitting the Orcs against the Death Korps of Krieg to show off some of their new rules and some of their new mechanics. But yeah, without further ado, should we crack this open and see what we get inside? So, flip this open again, take off the sleeve, and again, really nice artwork on there. Incidentally, it does look like they're fighting Orcs on the cover, which is suitably fitting for our battle report. We take this out of the box, and we'll see this is chock filled with stuff. It is very heavy. So, lots and lots of stuff there. From the off, it looks like we get a single sprue for the combat engineers. So I suspect they're going to be sold in boxes of 5. I think the resin ones were sold in 5s anyway. And they've got 10 of the old ones. So what I'll probably look to do is mix in some of the new weapon options here and have a full squad of 10 using some of those old resin figures as well. The new kind of like mine thing's cool. You can set that off to do mortal wounds. It does more damage against fortifications or vehicles. There are close combat options on these as well. You can have trench clubs or give them the combat shotguns. My existing engineers that I've got are armed with their shotguns, so I'll probably arm these the same way because honestly 2 attacks with strength 4 and no AP on the clubs, probably not going to get a lot done anyway, and I'd rather just use these for scouting shenanigans and that kind of mining charge they've got there. So that's new combat engineers. Next up in the box we've got the new commander. He looks very, very cool, and I'm really, really looking forward to getting this guy built and painted. I'm a big fan of the Death Riders. It's part of the reason why I picked up the Death Korps of Krieg originally back in the day. And yeah, these have got a weird alien kind of vibe to them because the horses they're vat grown. I mean, the Death Korps of Krieg themselves are vat grown. They're all clones. But it kind of goes into that weird kind of uncanny valley of weird freaky horses with like mutant legs. So yeah, really looking forward to building him up. I think we'll see in the rules a bit, but I think off the top of my head he gives Death Rider units devastating wounds if I remember rightly. So that's going to be something that's worth looking at. Next up we get the new artillery platform. So this thing looks really, really good. At the time we're filming this, I don't know what size base it's on. We'll see that in a little bit. But yeah, can't go wrong with massive artillery. We've got the existing kind of artillery teams, the Cadian ones, what they call the ordnance teams. I've used some of the resin Death Korps artillery crew to act as crew of them to kind of tie the army together. Because again, like I say, there's not really any you know, keyword shenanigans that you need to keep an eye out anymore, which is good. And the other sprue for this, obviously we see some of the other options such as the missile launchers there. You get some nice like sandbag emplacements that gets built around the actual device. And then the cannons, the siege mortar in particular, is the same kind of aesthetic as the mortars that the Krieg had in resin. So I feel this will tie nicely if you have got an existing Death Korps army. I'm probably going to build it with a big artillery gun, just because I think that's iconic, big guns blasting away. And I think stats wise it's the best one as well, but again we'll see that in the rules in a little bit. So that is that, and then finally we get 2 sets of Death Riders. So again, these will probably be sold in kits of 5 models. We get lots of options on these. Like I say, from a rules point of view, it doesn't matter what you arm them, it's just the standard profile. But from a visuals, you can give them these like carbines or the hunting lancers. Did have a quick look at the rules prior to filming this, and I don't think they're quite as punchy as the Rough Riders. But visually, I mean, they're cool. And it's all about rule of core for me. So I'm absolutely going to take... I mean, I've got 5 Death Riders already, so... Lots of squads of Death Riders riding around and doing shenanigans, I think, is going to be the order of the day. But yeah, these are really, really good. So, that is all the plastic bits. If we move this back into shot, we'll see what else is in the box. So, lift up this little divider. And we get a big old box, which is going to have the book in it. Put that to one side for now. We have a big base for the artillery team. That is a fair sized base. It's definitely bigger than the ones that the other kind of ordnance teams are on. And then under here we get, yeah, looks like it's just some standard cavalry bases for the Death Riders, so they are on a smaller base than the resin ones came with. Again, that's no issue. I can just rebase my existing ones onto them, or honestly, for casual games, no one's going to care if they're on kind of round bases. And then 5 just 25mm bases, plus a 40mm base for the engineers, and the same Krieg transfer sheet that we've seen with the... is that a new one? I think there's a new transfer sheet actually. We did get a transfer sheet with the old kill team that came in Octarius. Looks like you get a lot of iconography on there, lots of numbers for your squads, so hopefully with one of these I should be able to have enough transfers to do all my troopers. That'll be pretty handy. So yeah, we'll move that to one side for now. We'll have a quick look at what comes in here. Now, like with all the recent releases, Games Workshop have been cutting down on single-use plastic, so everything's in card sleeves and kind of wallets now, which is nice. If we open this up, this feels super heavy. We've got a big old codex. Now again, we'll look at this properly in the second half of the video, but just look at that cover art. I think that's from one of the old Vrax books. But very, very nice artwork. Again, we'll have a proper look later on in the video at the profiles and everything. But that is not everything that we get. We get the assembly instructions. We also get, which is really nice, if we move this out of the way, a full set of War Scroll cards. So if we open this up, so after much jostling out of that box, we do have War Scrolls for everything within the Codex as well. So it's not just the stuff in the box, you get every single profile in here. I know a lot of people like to use those War Scroll cards to kind of see the profiles. I certainly do. I think it makes life a lot easier. But before we jump to the future and have a look at the Codex and the models, what we'll do first is have a quick look at the assembly instructions just to see if there's anything we can glean from this. So it looks like for the Lord Marshal, we've actually got a couple of options with this pistol drawn or a sword drawn. I think the sword looks really cool, so I'm going to go for that one. Very, very nice model. Yeah, a couple of different modular parts on it. But he shouldn't be too bad to build. Now, all my Death Korps I've done with kind of trench bases. We'll see later on in the video, it's basically polyfiller built up to make it look like mud. Get some razor wire and stones and stuff in there. And this will probably fit quite nicely because he's got a nice kind of scenic base in there. So we'll build him up with that. We then get the combat engineers as well. Again, these guys have got a few different options. So you probably want to have a quick look through the book first just to see how you want to arm them. Again, you can give them kind of trench clubs and pistols, or give them the shotguns. And I think one can take a flamer as well, and one can be built as the operator of the little kind of remote mine as well. So yeah, these look really, really cool. I really like the resin ones, and hopefully these ones stand up just as well. Really cool. Now you do only get 5 of them in the box, so there is scope to picking up another set in the future to pad out the squad to a full 10-man squad. And then we get the Death Riders. I don't think there's much in the way of different options on the horses, but the guys on top can be built a number of different ways. So you've got swords, you've got the classic lancers, you've got the kind of carbines. I like the look of the lancers, so that's probably how I'm going to build mine, because I just think they look really, really cool. Maybe for some variety, mix in some pistols and swords and the like, but from a rules point of view, off the top of my head, I don't think it matters. I think they're all built the same way. And obviously you get 10 of these in the box as well, so if you do want to mix things up a little bit, might be scope for building half of them with lancers and half of them with the carbines. And then first of all, we've got the big artillery team. Now on this one again, there might be some scope for having this as quite a modular kit with changeable loadouts on the turret. We will see, I guess, once we've built this, how easy that's going to be to do. But it looks like you build up the main assembly first, and then you build up the various weapons that go on top. I really do like the big long-barreled gun. I think that's my my option of choice on this one. Big quad gun looks good as well though. Yeah, there's lots of nice options on this one. So yeah, what we'll do now is have a look at the Codex and see what has changed for the Astra Militarum. So let's dive into the Astra Militarum Codex and see what is new here. Absolutely gorgeous special edition in this box. A little time has passed since the first part of the video and I've been struck down by Nurgle, so apologies if I sound all bunged up here, but the show must go on, and I really enjoyed this book. Now, a lot of the old regiments are featured. You know, the Iron Guard are in here. We've got the Steel Legion in here. So while I guess by the time you're watching this, you know that a lot of the generic regiments and generic command squads are gone, we still get them name checked in the lore here. The real star of the show, though, as I suspect you'll already imagine, is the Death Korps of Krieg, who get, I think, a mighty 10 pages of lore in this book dedicated to the Death Korps themselves. So that's really cool. I know a lot of old school Death Korps players who have, you know, been playing since the Vrax days will have all that lore in those Vrax books. But yeah, there's a lot of love in here for the Krieg, which is really cool because obviously until the plastic kits came out, they were very much a niche army, an expensive resin forge world army that you didn't see very often on the battlefield. So it's really nice to have the Krieg back in the fold. Like I say, you got Valhalla, Mordian Iron Guard, Armageddon Steel Legion, all still get name checked in here, so they can easily be represented using the new profiles. So, you know, like Steel Legion, for example, just use the Krieg profiles. They work, you know, well enough for that. So yeah, but they still get name checked in here, which is good. So as ever, the first kind of part of the book is all the lore and deep dive into the background and everything of the various regiments. We then get a regimental colours showcase. Now what's interesting with this is those old regiments are long gone. They don't get represented here. This is just the plastic stuff that gets shown off in here. But interestingly, the Catachan infantry squad isn't shown anywhere in here. With them still having a profile in the book, I do wonder if we will get new Catachans at some point, maybe for Kill Team perhaps. Because it is an odd one, that is a really old kit. We're talking 20 plus years now, that kit. So yeah, I'm a bit surprised that it's not being removed. You know, certainly some of the special characters have been, which we'll see later on in the book. And all the kind of photography in here is just the Death Korps and the Cadians. So yeah, it would be cool to get new Catachans, because I'd love to do a Catachan army, and there's some really nice stuff within this book that lets you do different army styles, which we'll see shortly. So first up we've got the Combat Patrol, and this is a really, really odd box. So I was kind of expecting this to have a lot of the new Krieg stuff. I was expecting it to, you know, kind of gel into that artillery kind of stuff. If I'm honest, I kind of expected the contents of the army set, but maybe with 5 Death Riders instead of 10. What you get instead is an unusual box, I think it's safe to say. You've got a command squad, a Cadian command squad, Karsakin, 10 of them, and then 2 units of 5 Rough Riders. So Rough Riders are cool. If you want to do like a fully cavalry kind of army, mixing this box with the army set gives you a lot of cavalry. But yeah, I kind of expected there to be, I mean, there's not even a battle line unit within this Combat Patrol, so that was a bit of a surprise, if I'm honest. I expected there to be, you know, maybe a Krieg squad in there, maybe one of the artillery platforms. It's by no means a bad box. I was just kind of surprised with this book being very Death Korps focused that the Combat Patrol wouldn't follow suit. Major, you know, it's not a major thing, is it? But yeah, it's an interesting one. As ever, we do get a full kind of painting guide for the Combat Patrol, and then the rules for the Combat Patrol themselves as well. They really have, you know, a simplified version of the main Astra Militarum rules in here, with the different orders that they can be issued. Nice little sampler into playing the army, which is really what Combat Patrol is. I do wonder if come 11th edition we'll see something closer to Spearhead, where it's kind of a separate game really, but this is more kind of a 40k light. But yeah, I think what most people will be here to see though is the codex itself. And going into the rules, army wise, the core rules of the Astra Militarum haven't changed at all really. That still works exactly the same way. But there are some changes through the profiles. Obviously there's a lot of new units in here, and there's some units that have been removed as well. So what we're going to do is talk through the kind of army rules. We'll go through all the detachments and see what they do. And then we're not going to go through every single profile. I will page through them, so if you do want to pause and look, you can, but the majority of these are exactly the same. There are some tweaks here and there, which we'll call out when I remember them, but really we're going to focus on the new stuff, the omissions, and the kind of the bigger changes. So army rule is still voice of command. This essentially allows your officers to issue orders to various regiments in which to gain one of 6 different buffs. This is exactly the same. Your various officers will have another number of different orders they can issue. It will state on their datasheet what units they can issue those orders to as well. The actual orders themselves as well are still exactly the same. It is a lot clearer in this book though, with the nice little kind of visuals here to show which stats are increased, which I thought was a nice change, but no massive changes there. The first of the 5 detachments is combined arms. This is the one out of the index. Again, it's 99% the same, but there are some little tweaks. Reactive command, I think, is a new one, if I remember rightly. Each time a unit is set up within 9 inches of the bearer's unit, the bearer can issue 1 order. This is not counted towards the number of orders the bearer can issue in the battle round. So basically, if enemy deep strikes in, you get a free order against them. So that's pretty cool. On the stratagem side as well, again, most of it's the same. The big change is the vehicle one. So previously they had one that reduced the damage by 1. Now instead your vehicle gets the benefit of cover. So a bit of a little tweak there, but obviously the big vehicle strat is in the vehicle detachment. So moving on, there's 4 new detachments in the book, and these are really focused around different ways that the Astra Militarum operates. So they let you theme your army in certain ways. The first one being the Siege Regiment. This represents, well, you know, it fits the Death Korps of Krieg really well. It's kind of your trench warfare one, lots of artillery. But you don't actually need any artillery. The main kind of gimmick represents your big guns that are back off the battlefield. They're miles in the background and they're firing shells that are affecting the battle. Essentially what this means is that at the start of each battle round you pick one of 3 different types of shells that you want to be firing. There's Creeping Barrage, which can affect enemy units more than 12 inches away from you, and if it goes off on a 5+, it reduces their movement by 2 and their advance and charge rolls by 2. So that's a really good one for kind of slowing down the enemy if you're facing an aggressive offensive army. Incendiary Bombardment is similar, but this one you select 3 units if it's a 2,000 point battle and they lose the benefit of cover. So a really good one. You just fire these big incendiary shells and it lights up where the units are, stripping them of cover, which is pretty cool. And then the final one is Smoke Shells. You select 3 of your units and they gain the stealth ability. So really nice, easy one to do. It's the start of each battle round and you can use those different shells. Yeah, I really like that. Now the enhancements and the stratagems in here are really geared around that kind of trench warfare vibe. So if we look at the stratagems first, over the top I think it's my favourite one. So this one allows your officer to do a move order on as many different units as you like. And your Krieg command squads have got a 24-inch range on their orders. So you can, you know, have your guys charging across the top, blowing the whistles as the shells are kind of screaming overhead. Really, really good one. Like, combos really nicely with the Stalwart's Honours enhancement. So when he's leading a unit, when that unit is affected by an order, they also have the benefit of take cover. So in this example, he'd give himself his own unit, move, and take cover, and then as many other units as he wants, move. Really, really good, and it means that your other officers can obviously use their orders to improve your artillery and the like. Now, Callous Sacrifice is a really good one as well. That allows your units to shoot in engagement range, which is really, really good. There is a downside to it though. Every unit that you kill You roll the dice on the 4 plus you remove one of your own units. And that basically represents the guys getting hacked down as they're shooting at point blank range. That can be very, very strong, especially on the Death Korps kind of trooper units, which with 2 medics, which we'll see in a bit, get D3 plus 1 models back every turn. So for a command point, I think that's well worth doing. You can gunk up the enemy with big 20-man squads of Death Korps. If they've got a command squad in there, they get them feel no pain. You know, if you've got 2 medics, you get models back every turn. And being able to use, you know, your melter guns and stuff at point blank range is very, very good. So yeah, really, really rate this one. Minefield's another fun one as well. If you've already used Overwatch, this instead, when an enemy unit charges in, they just take some mortal wounds. It works a bit like grenades, for example. So really good one of just popping off some wounds to things that are charging you. So yeah, really, really fun regiment, this one. The next one is the Mechanised Assault. And this one is all based around kind of infantry squads in vehicles. Their main mechanic is that when a unit gets out of transport and makes a ranged attack, they add 1 to the wound roll. So really, really strong. If you're kind of like, I don't know, throwing heavy weapon squads out of vehicles to improve their wound roll and take things down, really, really good. I'd love to do a full mechanised army with loads of chimeras. I've got a big kind of infantry heavy Krieg army with lots of artillery and stuff, but I could easily split those 20-man squads into 10-man squads and stick them in chimeras and the like. So yeah, I think this would be a fun one to do. There's a lot of stuff in here that kind of leans into that as well. So you've got rapid dispersal, which means that once you disembark from a vehicle, you can make a D6-inch move, which is pretty good. Hasty extraction's another nice one as well. So provided you're not in engagement in range of enemy models, you can get inside a transport at the end of the opponent's charge phase. So again, really, really nice little gimmicks like that, which could make this one a really quick one to get around the battlefield and get onto key locations and stuff. So yeah, really, really like this one. The next one is Hammer of the Emperor, and this is one, if you are a fan of tanks, go crazy with this one because it's all about the tanks. Their main mechanic is Iron Tread, and for that one, you don't have to make an advance roll, you always advance 6 inches. Now on top of that, they're allowed to move through the engagement range of enemy models while they're moving as well, which is really good. You still can't end your move in engagement range, but it means that you can actually pop your tanks like behind enemy lines through enemy units, which is really, really good. There are stratagems that kind of help with that as well. It lets you kind of shoot after advancing or retreating. So yeah, really, really cool. I quite like this one as well. I know Dave is keen to do a Hammer of the Emperor Cadian army with lots of Vogel Dawns and Lehman Russes kind of crushing through enemy units. So again, I think this is going to be another fun one to see in games. I'm quite looking forward to seeing these varied armies hit the tabletop. Now the final one is the recon element. And this one is, I guess it's themed around your jungle fighters. It's all about camouflage and stealth and being sneaky. And in this one, your whole army has the benefit of cover all the time. If you're in cover, your save increases by an additional 1 as well. So it's not going to be a massive advantage. You know, you're only getting a pip of armour, but it could make the difference. Now this has got some cool thematic elements as well that lean into that kind of jungle fighter vibe. So tripwire, for example, is a really nice one. Whenever an enemy infantry or mounted unit and a normal advanced charge will fall back within 9 inches, on a 4+, they subtract 1 from their hit rolls. So that's a pretty good one to kind of like mitigate your opponent's abilities. I quite like that. Over on the stratagem side of things as well, you've got scramble fields to stop people from deep striking near you. You've got abilities to kind of move your own units when enemy units get nearby. So there's some good stuff there. I quite like Courageous Diversion, which gives your unit Feel No Pain 6+, and if you're the closest target, you get -1 to hit as well when the enemy's shooting you. So that's a nice one to kind of go in aggressively with a big unit of Catachans, and basically if the enemy wants to shoot you, they're going to be -1 to hit, and you get a 6+ Feel No Pain as well. So that's pretty cool. I quite like that one. I think my favourite of all the different detachments is the big Siege Regiment one, with the mechanised assault being a close second. I think that one could be very powerful with the bonus to wound when you disembark. I think there's some good combos you can do there. You know, don't forget your Krieg squads can take 2 melters, I think, in a 20-man squad. So I'll have to check on a 10-man squad, but you can definitely take at least 1 melter, plasma, you know, grenade launcher in there, and then all the massed fire of the las guns. With +1 to wound, you're going to do some damage there. So I think that's going to be a pretty good one to watch out for. So that is all the detachments. We get some nice example armies here as well of the kind of thing that you can put together. I'd love to do a full kind of tank army. I think that'd look really, really cool. At the end of the video, I will have some shots of my Death Korps as well. And we've got a full write-up of this book over at spruesandbrews.com as well, where I've got some pictures of my Death Korps army, a huge Death Korps army, which was, you know, mostly resin, but obviously a lot of the new things have been added, and GW very kindly sent some of the new plastic Krieg squads as well to round it out a little bit. So I've got just shy of 3,000 points of Krieg now, and we're planning on doing some battle reports in the near future as well. I think the first one is going to be against Orcs, so stay tuned for that. It'll be on the site in the next couple of weeks. But the thing that most people are going to be interested in are the detachments, the data sheets. So there's a few units that have been removed from the book. So what's his name? Ironhand Strachan and Harker, is he called? The other Catagin character. They're both removed. The regimental attaches, they're no longer in the book. The generic tank commander profile has been split into 2 different ones. The generic infantry squad, generic command squad, and generic heavy weapon squads have all been removed. And each of them now has a Cadian, a Krieg, and a Catachan version, which operate very differently to each other. So I know a lot of people were disappointed that those generic ones have gone, but you'll easily be able to, you know, get your own regiment and use it as one of those ones. I don't think that's going to be any issue at all, really. So yeah, so like I say, we're not going to look at every single change. Most of the stuff in here is the same. There are some tweaks here or there, so if I do remember it, I will kind of call it out as we go through. But really, we're going to be focusing on the brand new stuff. And I'm really looking forward to using this book. I think it's going to be a really good one. So straight away, the Cadian Command Squad has changed a little bit. So they do have med packs to bring back D3 destroy models, but Cadia stance is a little bit differently now. So I believe you've got to ignore the modifiers on your hit and wound rolls, if I remember rightly. Instead now, if you're within range of a objective marker, you get the benefit of cover. So a bit of a change on that one, potentially not as strong as it used to be, but all of the different command squads now have very different roles, which is good. You can tune them to kind of what role you want them to have within the army. Krieg command squads get a 6+ feel no pain against mortal wounds, so that gives you a bit of protection against mortals, but obviously bear in mind that doesn't work on normal wounds. So again, it kind of tailors the unit to suit various roles in the army. Their big thing really is that they can be targeted with the stratagems when they're battle shocked, making them quite a reliable command squad to have. They can also, once per battle, issue an additional order as well with the commissar. So yeah, nice little unit that. Lord Marshal Dreer is the new officer. So he is the Lord Solar equivalent for the Death Korps of Krieg. He can issue 3 orders, but he can only give them to regiment orders. So he's not going to be able to give them to tanks like the Solar Lord Solar is. He can give them to his troops. He can give them to his artillery, all that good stuff. Bear in mind though, he doesn't have the boosted range like the Krieg Command Squad has at 24 inches. So with his 3, really going to be targeting nearby units. He can join Death Riders, and really you want him in a squad of Death Riders because it gives them devastating wounds. This guy is quite hard to kill as well with this 4+ invulnerable save, his 6+ feel no pain, and with his tough to kill rule, he's got a chance of coming back to life as well. So I think it's a really good guy to take in your army, especially if you're taking Death Riders. It makes them very, very good, and it's a really cool model as well. We'll see him at the end of the video. And then Catachin Command Squads, their kind of gimmick is that they give squads they're attached to the assault ability. So again, it makes those Catachin squads move up quicker across the battlefield. I like how they've split the command squads into 3 different ones with 3 different abilities. It does make things a bit more interesting for list building, and also means you can theme your collection. It is a shame that all the named Catachin characters, apart from Sly Marbo, are gone. That is a shame, but they were all metals, and I think Games Workshop really are focusing out any of the kind of the non-plastics, which does surprise me while Marbo is still in the book, but yeah, it is an interesting one. 10 commanders have now been split into 2 profiles. So you've got your Lehman Russ commander, who operates much like they did back in the old book, but you've got the new profile now of the Rogue or Dawn commander. Now this one does have a different rule on him. So every time he shoots, he can reroll 1 hit, 1 wound, and 1 damage roll, which makes this I guess the best way of taking Rogue or Dawns, because they're going to have more damage output. Yeah, really, really nice one. I can see a lot of people taking Rogue or Dawn commanders, especially if you're taking the big kind of tank company detachment as well. You've now got a few different flavours of commander that you can use as well, each being able to issue 2 orders. Obviously the Lehman Russ commanders got a way of issuing additional orders. So yeah, I think it's going to be fun to do a full tank force in this book. The Primaris Psyker still exists. A lot of these have had no kind of real changes. Like I say, servitors have gone as well. A lot of the old metal stuff has gone, but the Primaris Psyker is still there. We still also get a profile for the Ministorum Priests as well. They still exist in this book, obviously using the new plastic model rather than the old metal one as well. And I think that's essentially if there's a plastic model for it, it stays in the book. If it doesn't, then it's out, with the exception of Sly Marbo. So, Cadian shock troops are much the same. They still have sticky objectives. Death Korps of Krieg, we talked about a little bit earlier. They've got their medics to bring people back. They've still got grim demeanour as well. So they are +1 to hit if they're below starting strength, and they're also +1 to wound if they're below half strength. Makes them very, very good with their damage output, and they can take a lot of weapons as well. So for every 10 models, up to 2 of them can take a flame, a grenade and long lance, and for every 10, 2 can take a Voxcaster, melter gun or plasma gun. So you can stack up 20-man squads with 2 plasma, 2 melter if you wanted to. I'd take that over the Voxcaster myself. Obviously some will differ and take the Voxcaster for that chance of a command point refund, but I think I'd rather stack up with heavy weapons on the Death Korps of Krieg. And like I said earlier, you can take 2 medics now as well to get that heal off a little bit easier as well. Catachin Jungle Fighters have had a little bit of a change as well. They are +1 to wound on the charge. Now again, they are only swinging at strength 3, but enough attacks in mass with +1 to wound. You're wounding tanks on 5s rather than 6s. So yeah, there's definitely going to be stuff you can do with those, and dirt cheap big blob of troops to hold up the enemy. Combat Engineers are a new unit. Obviously we had the old resin ones back in the day. These are the new plastic ones, and they're basically a Grenadier unit. They get the Grenadier stratagem for free, which is really, really good. They get a scout move, and they've also got a little kind of remote mine which they can set off to do D6 wounds to an enemy unit, or if it's a vehicle or a fortification, they do D3+3, which is really, really cool. So, flipping on through the book, we've got the Tempestus Scions and the Tempestus Aquilians. Obviously, the Aquilians are the new ones from Kill Team. They're really good. They can deep strike outside of 3 inches of enemy units, and when they do, they can bring down their gun turret. That will stay in place and be able to shoot until they make a move. So, as soon as they move on from that spot, whether it's a move, a fallback, or a charge, the gun basically disappears. It's no longer in play anymore, which is a shame. I would like to have seen that kind of either stay as a little stationary turret or move around with them. I guess from a game mechanics kind of point of view, once they've moved off from the little sentry gun, it doesn't really have any impact in the game, but that's pretty good, and you've got a range of different weapons you can give on them. Now the Tempestus Scions don't deep strike anymore either. They are going to have to rely on like Valkyries and stuff to get them in the fight. Also in a Valkyrie you can drop people out of it at the end of the enemy movement phase as well. So if you're wanting deep striking troops, it is your Aquilians that you're going to be using there. No real changes on the Ogryns as far as I remember. And yeah, heavy weapon squads. So like I said earlier, all the heavy weapon squads have been split into 3 different ones, each with different roles. Now the Cadian ones are very much a really good at overwatching unit. They overwatch on a 5+, or if there's a platoon nearby, they overwatch on a 4+, which makes them really, really reliable for overwatching. Especially if you've got like lance cannons and stuff to take down enemy tanks and the like. So that's a really interesting role for them. Makes them a lot more reliable than hitting on 6s. And yeah, I'm tempted to take some of these. Obviously I want to Krieg them up to match the rest of my army. But yeah, you've got a lot of different choices. Catachin heavy weapon teams, their kind of main gimmick is that they get to reroll hits and wounds of 1 against monsters or vehicles. And they've also got a 6-inch scout as well. So these guys get into good positions and focus on those big monsters and the like. And again, you can easily model your army to represent the different types of heavy weapon teams that you've got as well. I am tempted to do a Catachin army at some point. I really hope they get new infantry, because that's what is going to kind of like swing it for me. And the Krieg heavy weapon squads, their gimmick is that they fight on death. So once one's removed on a 3+, the platform gets to make a free shot before you remove it. So that's pretty good as well. I really like the heavy flamer. It's got an 18-inch range, d6 attacks, strength 5, AP 1 and damage 2. Can be a really good like charge deterrent or Primaris killer. Obviously it's low AP, but the volume of fire you can put out with these, and damage 2, strength 5 is pretty good as well. Combined with the fact that these things can shoot when they die as well, people are going to have to be careful of them and kind of make sure they stay out of range of them. Obviously you've got, you know, last cannons and the like, but I feel that the Catachin one does that role better. If you're going to take them, you may as well be kind of wounding on +1, where the flamers I think are going to do quite a bit of damage if you kind of support your units with them. Interestingly, they've got this little sposser guy as well who comes with them. The kit isn't out yet. Hopefully we'll have a video up at some point when the kit comes out, but yeah, really interesting one. We then have the new artillery team as well. That's basically a bigger version of the field ordnance battery. So imagine all the weapons on that and kind of scale them up. It's not quite as big model-wise as the old Earthshaker batteries, but the stat line's pretty good. The siege cannon's what I've built mine with. D6 attacks, ballistic skill 5+, strength 12, AP -2, 3 damage. I think it's a pretty good one, especially if you've got a couple of them kind of saturating the area, but obviously you can equip them for different roles as well. We'll have a look at the kit later on in the video, but you can absolutely build this and swap out the main weapon as well, so don't feel that you're locked into the weapon that you pick. As long as you don't glue the kind of gun into the main assembly, you can kind of prise that out and swap the main gun that's in there, which is really good. It's really nice kind of design to the gun that lets you do that. So yeah, really like that. It also kind of battle shocks enemy units as well. So yeah, if they get hit by it, they basically take a battle shock at -1, which is pretty cool. Other new unit we've got is the Death Riders. So these guys are a different role really than the Rough Riders. I looked at them first and I thought, well, why would you take Death Riders over Rough Riders? Because Rough Riders have got those really good melter tips on the Lancers, which are really powerful. The Death Riders don't have that. Now obviously you can put Greer in the unit with them to give them devastating wounds, which is pretty strong. Their main kind of gimmick really is their screening line rule. So when an enemy unit gets within 9 inches of them, these guys can make a free 6-inch move. So you do use that to screen units, move out of charge ranges, to, you know, edge onto an objective maybe. There's lots of shenanigans you can do with that, which makes them really, really cool. They are a little bit slower than the Rough Riders at 10 inches, but yeah, I think a couple of units of Death Riders for screening purposes would be really good, being able to trigger that ability and just kind of ease the unit 6 inches in the direction that they need to go. And again, with Dreer, they actually do some decent damage output as well with devastating wounds. Without Dreer, I mean, you're talking D6 attacks, hitting on 3s, strength 4s, no AP, 1 damage, or, you know, -2 AP but only 3 attacks if you use the Power Saber. So, yeah, I think Dreer's the way to go if you want to do some damage with these guys. And then if you're doing that, you may as well take a big squad of 10 of them. The Ratlings get a slightly updated profile. They're not a million miles from where they were in the previous book. They've got the new tank stopper rifle, which is pretty nice. Strength 9, AP 3, D6 damage. They also, bizarrely, can be given grenades as well, but you're never really going to be close enough to use the grenade keyword on them. And then with their little battle mot, once per game you can give them lethal hits. So, yeah, they're pretty good. I think a unit of 10 of them could do the business. AP 2, damage 2, precision hits. I think those guys can be pretty good. Stick lethal hits on them as well. They've got some good chance of taking down some characters with them. So yeah, really like the Ratlings, they're cool. On to some of the other units. A lot of this is the same now, but there are a few little changes. Scout Sentinels, for example, you still reroll hits of 1 for the kind of marked target, but you no longer get to ignore the indirect fire rule. So I guess that would have been a bit silly with all the new artillery in there, would have made them a bit too powerful, but they have been toned down a little bit. They're still absolutely worth taking for the re-rolling ones to hit, but yeah, if you are going artillery heavy, unfortunately they don't stop your the downsides for your indirect fire. Now, off the top of my head, the rest of these profiles are all the same. I don't think there's been any big changes, or if there was, I didn't spot them when I was going through the book in the full write-up. Obviously, feel free to pause and have a look if you you can glean any rules changes on any of these. But a lot of the tanks are pretty much identical to how they used to operate. Most of the changes really are across the different infantry squads, the heavy weapons, the command squads, all that kind of stuff. Death Strike, unfortunately, is still a bit meh, really. And yeah, you've still got all your super heavy variants as well in there. More super heavies than you'd ever realistically field in a normal battle. But it's cool that they're all in there. The Valkyrie's airborne insertion. At the end of your opponent's movement phase, you can disembark units from it. I can't remember if it used to do that, but that's going to be if you've taken you know, Scions or something. That's one way to kind of deep strike them, by doing it in the enemy's movement phase. And the Aegis defence line's still in there. I am surprised that we didn't get like a minefield terrain piece, especially since there's mine transfers on the transfer sheet for the Krieg. Whether that's something that will come in the future, maybe. I'd really love a kind of minefield kind of scenery piece. I think that'd be really cool. There's a really nice sheet here as well, where it lists all the different weapons that are available to the Astra Militarum. Obviously, a lot of people watching this will know exactly what the weapons are, but for newcomers, it's handy to be able to ID what the different weapons are, especially on things like the artillery platforms that can take multiple different loadouts as well. So finally, we have got the Crusade rules as well. So this is quite cool. Essentially, you send your different units on tours of duty, and as part of that, you've got to manage your logistic points, and you do get commendations to give to your units as well. So the logistics mechanic is basically there's 4 different tracks, and you have to kind of balance your resources to make sure that you're not going into surplus, and when you need it, make sure you're not going into deficiency, and then when you need it, make sure you're going into surplus. So this kind of in the Crusade, let's say material for example, if you are deficient in that, all your vehicles are -2 movement because they haven't got enough fuel, where if you can build up the resources so it's in surplus, your units instead can re-roll 1 hit each time they fire because they've got loads of bullets and ammo and stuff. So really, really like that mechanic. I think that's really fun. I kind of like the kind of managing the different resources there. I think that's a really cool kind of Crusade thing. Equally, you've got commendations as well, so you build up these commendation points and you can use them to buy commendations onto individual units or onto the whole kind of army. And again, there's some fun stuff here. So the Departamento Salvage Award, for example, you can give to Ratlings, and then at the end of the game they've got a chance of salvaging some requisition points, for example. Yeah, so some really, really good stuff, and there's lots of different things there that you can kind of tweak and update your units with. In a Crusade, you can kind of imagine these units getting different kind of medals and awards as they start doing different things during your tours of duty. So yeah, I think that's a really, really fun one. And then for more expensive ones, you can give them to the entire regiments as well. And that basically gives you kind of army-wide abilities, but they do give you kind of changes to the deficiency rules as well. So yeah, I think they're pretty fun. On top of that, you've got your normal kind of Crusade stuff. You've got your agendas and requisitions and all your kind of like gear and battle traits and kind of name generators and all that cool stuff as well. We will show the points at the end there. My Krieg army changed a little bit in points values. Not massively so, but obviously there are some tweaks here, so you'll want to just scope that out if you are, you know, running an army. The tank commander, for the Rogue or Dawn tank commander, is only 15 points over a standard Rogue or Dawn, so I think you'd always take the tank commander. That reroll hit, wound and damage is well worth the 15 points when combined with the 2 orders as well, so I think that's going to be a go-to for a lot of people. But yeah, let's look at the new codex. So before we close out the video, what we're going to do is have a look at the finished models and do some comparisons to the old Death Korps Krieg range as well. So over the last few weeks, I've furiously painted up the contents of the Death Korps box, and this is all the contents here, built and painted. Now I know a lot of people have commented that it's quite a low model count for the cost. Now, I mean, to be fair, it's £145 for the box. Now you have got the limited codex in there, plus the card, so call that £45 worth. That leaves £100 worth of models. The Death Riders alone are going to be £40 for 5. So you get £80 worth of Death Riders in there, plus Dre, who's going to be at least 30 quid, the Engineer Squad, and the big artillery platform, which is a really big piece. So I think essentially you get like these 2 units for free, which I don't think is a bad deal. I can see this being like, you know, £40 at least when it comes out. And these, I don't know, 28 quid if we go for like similar size squads. So you do get some good value for money if you are going to be using all the units. Now, obviously if you're not too fussed with the Death Riders, these are the bulk of the box really. And most of the value in the box is this big squad of Death Riders with Dreer in there. I'll have a quick look at the models though before we round out the video, because they are very, very nice. Like I say, I've got an existing Death Korps Krieg army, and I really enjoyed painting up these guys to match. There's some really nice details, like some moulded barbed wire. I have put some kind of model barbed wire on the models as well to kind of tie them together. But yeah, he's a really, really nice model. The Death Riders are very, very dynamic. Now I have got here a squad of the old resin Death Riders. If you look at like a side-by-side comparison, obviously the new ones are a lot bigger. This looks more like a Death Pony than a Death Rider now. But I do like on the old squad that they've all got their spears kind of like holstered at their side and they're just standing at ease with them. Where these ones are a lot more dynamic. You have got some that you can build with like the spears up with like the flags and stuff. But all the models were a lot more dynamic. I'd have really liked like one on the sprue to be a bit more of a casual pose, just because I think they'd blend better with the older Death Riders then. I mean, they're still really, really nice sculpts, and they're really, really detailed, and they go together a lot easier than the resin ones as well. But I think if you're fielding them in the same army, then yeah, I think in the same unit they're going to look a little bit odd, because these are quite considerably bigger than the old ones. But you know, the detailing is pretty much the same, so they've got the same kind of armour style on them. You haven't got like this kind of kit bag at the back. Instead, they've got like the standard Death Korps kind of backpack on, and they've got the sword kind of holstered at the side, and then they've got their rifle on the other side as well. All of them can be built with the spears or the swords or the rifles. I really like the spears, so I built them all like that, but there is one I built here with the gun. Just add a bit of variety to the squad. If I had another squad of them, I'd probably build them with the power swords, just to have a bit of variation there. But yeah, they're a really, really nice model. Now I have put some barbed wire on these, but some of the models do have, let's see if we can find one, this one here, do have some kind of sculpted barbed wire elements that you can see on the bottom of the base there as well. So yeah, really, really nice. Now the kind of website kind of art colour scheme they've done for these, they've gone quite alien-y for the horses. But I've decided to have them, they're horses. Yes, they've got weird, horrific kind of hoof, feet, hand things. But yeah, I decided to paint them to match my existing Death Korps really. And then I've used a lot of weathering powder to add kind of like mud and stuff to them. So yeah, really happy with the Death Riders, and I kind of want to get another unit at least to round out my 5-man squad of resin ones into a full 10-man squad. Next up, we've got the engineers, and they are a very, very nice kit. Again, they're not a million miles away from the standard plastic Krieg set. They've got heavier armour on them, and obviously a few other gadgets and tools. Like this guy's got a little device to drive the remote mine. And then the standard guys have all got their combat shotguns. There is one flame, I think we saw that one first, didn't we? One flamer on here as well. So yeah, and then the little remote mine thing is really nice as well. That's basically just a token, and once it's been used, you remove the token from the battlefield. But that looks quite good, kind of churning through the mud. These guys stack up quite nicely to the resin ones. Again, like with most of the resin stuff, the new models do stand quite a bit taller than the old ones, but I don't think they look too bad mixed in a unit together with some of the little shorter ones alongside them. So if you do have a resin squad, they'll fit in fine. I've been using these as a squad of 10 with 5 of the resin ones and 5 of the plastic ones, and they look absolutely fine. It's just really when you put them side by side that you can see the size comparison. And if you do them like this with trench bases, you can always build up the base of the resin ones a bit higher to kind of disguise that a little bit. My favourite piece though from the box is the big artillery gun, and it's like a mini diorama. Now obviously with the trench bases, I've kind of built all this up to look a bit kind of trench-like, with some glosses and some polyfiller to kind of build up the mud and the muck all around it. But it's a really, really nice kit with the little sandbagging placements and the various crew standing on the turret. You can as well, I'm going to do it here, but this can just pull out, and I've got the other kind of weapon parts upstairs that you can then just split, kind of stick in there. So you don't even need to use magnets or anything, you can just, with the resistance, pull that out and pop in the new one if you do want to change out the weapon loadout. I'm going to keep this because I think it suits the Krieg the most. I'm probably going to buy another 2 of these as well, just because I like the appeal of lots of big guns shooting away and destroying Dave's orcs. But yeah, that's probably my favourite kit from the set. So yeah, that is a look at the Death Korps of Krieg army set. Now there are going to be a couple more kits coming in the future, so no doubt we will have some more videos in the near future covering the last few kits of the Death Korps range. If you are into the Astra Militarum, or you want to see my Death Korps of Krieg army as well, if you head over to spruesandbrews.com, I've got a full 4,000 word write-up of the book, and I'm going to have photographs of my whole army scattered throughout it, including the new kits as well. So if you want to see those in a bit more detail, there's some nice kind of glamour shots, then head over to the website and you can see that. If you do want to support the site as well, we do have an affiliate link to Element Games in the description. If you buy anything through that link, we get a bit of a kickback, which helps us kind of do these videos and pays for all the hosting costs and all that kind of good stuff. So yeah, let us know, are you going to be starting a new Astra Militarum army? Have you been wanting to do Death Korps of Krieg for a long time and now attempted that the stuff's a lot cheaper and in plastic? Let us know in the comments. Also, what are your kind of like hobby plans for the new year? You know, is there anything on the horizon that you want to do? Is there anything that you hope is going to get released that will spark a new hobby resolution from you? But yeah, until next time, have a great weekend and we'll see you soon.